Hello! So this evening we're going to be taking a look at the Flying Iron Messerschmitt BF 109 in Flight Simulator 2020. So you can see straight away these Flying Iron aircraft are really something else in terms of the material modelling and the texturing for the liveries. So if you go and look around the aeroplane carefully, you can see there's a real progression from each aeroplane they built. So the BF 109 really starts to kind of lift their game in terms of making it look photographic. It really is something else, isn't it? You know, the attention to detail in every little corner of the aeroplane really is very good. So we'll go and have a look inside the cockpit in a moment. I've just got one of the stock pilots from the simulator in it. It doesn't come with a Second World War pilot, if you want to call it that, or a period accurate pilot, but you can obviously get those third-party ones. But yeah, just looking around at the undercarriage and the way it's modelled, you can see it's really nicely done. So we fly along under the aircraft. I've gone and increased the fuel capacity to make the drop tank appear. You can see the rather flimsy and narrow undercarriage on the BF 109. So yeah, this aeroplane has something of a reputation for being very difficult to handle on the ground. So yeah, it's going to be a bit of a lottery if we manage to get it into the air in one piece, but I promise not to edit too much, or at all even. So if I do make any mistakes, I'll leave them in. So without further ado, let's go and jump inside the cockpit and see what we find. So within the cockpit, it's rather mechanical and sparse and cramped, I guess. So if you have a look around, a lot of the instruments are going to be very foreign because of the era. So, you know, they hadn't standardized six-pack or anything like that yet. But you have got an attitude indicator. You have got an indicated airspeed. It's in kilometers an hour. You've got altitude in kilometers. You've got a gyro compass over here. You've got manifold pressure and RPM. And you've got some fuel gauges and temperature gauges and pressure gauges. So it's all the normal kinds of things. They just don't look exactly like you see in modern aircraft. So we've got a elevator trim wheel there. We've got obviously the throttles and the fuel mixture control here. We've got the magnetos, and the starter is under here. You've got an electric starter to spin up the engine before you release a clutch, I guess, inside the engine to turn the engine over. Just having a look around. There's various radios. There's a breaker panel on the right-hand side. We'll see that as we work through the startup sequence. You can see there is a tablet here, which has got all sorts of bits and pieces inside it. The Flying Iron airplanes have got very good tablets, so it gives you lots of data on the aircraft. And there's a workshop option in here as well. So there is wear and tear on the aeroplane, and you can go in there and fix things if you manage to break them, like blowing the engine up or anything like that. As you saw earlier, you can open and close the canopy, so I've closed it, ready to get the aeroplane running. I guess we could open it while we're firing the engine up, just so we can hear it nicely. Okay, so what do we have to do to get it started? Let's go and open the throttle a little bit. And then we make sure the radiator handle down here is pushed all the way down. It is already. There's a prop control switch underneath here. It needs to be on automatic. We can put it on manual, but we're going to leave it on automatic. Then on the right hand side, there's a switch down here with the cable. That's the battery cable. And then we're going to go to the breakers. So I'm going to press Alt and 2 to come over here to show you the breakers easily. So I've made some custom views up to help us around. So we need to turn on breaker number 8 and breaker number 12. And then breaker 21 and 22. So these are the starter systems. So that's the spinner, or the electrical system that spins up the inside of the engine, and that's the engager, or the inertia drive, as it says. Okay, so then we got on the left hand side, we've got the primer, which is down here. So we're going to hit it 5 times, or 6 maybe. 4, 5, 6. So then back over this side, we're going to go and push in 27, which is, you can suddenly hear the fuel is being pumped. And then over by the throttles, we're going to advance. Yeah, some of these switches get in each other's way. We're going to go and advance the fuel control, so P1 and 2. And then magnetos, so we'll go for magnetos 1 and 2. And then we're going to hold in the inertia starter. And we're going to listen to the tone of it and wait for it to stop accelerating. It takes about 20-25 seconds. So this is the inertia starter. That was that breaker I just showed you a moment ago. So we're actually going to go for ignition when this gets up to speed. Ready? Nearly. So let's try that again. The silver handle above the red button that I'm pressing down clears the plugs, so it runs the engine lean essentially to clean the plugs out. We have an engine. Okay, let's go and pull this down. I'm just going to check the volume levels. So yeah, it's very loud. I'm going to turn the volume down for you a little bit, so it's not quite so loud for you, and for my own ears as well. So we're going to run it at 1000 RPM for a moment just to warm it up, and we're going to pull this out just to clean up the engine, and then we're going to press the rest of the breakers in. I think we're good there. And having done that, that's pretty much it. So the breakers included the lights. So we just sit and wait for it to warm up a little bit. And we'll put the head tracking on now. Just use enough power to be able to taxi out. So on the takeoff roll, I am reliably informed, I've not actually flown this yet, I'm reliably informed that you have to hold full right aileron until the tail comes up. It has a tendency to tip over otherwise. So we're going to get out onto the runway here at Goodwood and then see how we get on. So while we're doing this, running around on the ground, we're going to keep cleaning the plugs up. It makes horrible noises until it's running cleanly. Okay. So I'm going to go full right aileron and then gently accelerate. Do my best to hold it in a straight line. Looking for about 1.3 on the manifold pressure. Whoa, nearly. Yep, I just tipped the wing into the grass there. I just told you it's a box of frogs, isn't it? It really is, as bad as everybody says. So, undercarriage up immediately. So I possibly came off the ground a little bit early then, which is why it was so unstable. Looks the part though, doesn't it? So I'm going to come off the throttle a bit and we're going to clean it up again come back over the top of Goodwood. So in terms of trim, it does move around a fair bit, but it's not too bad. So you do need to use a little bit of elevator trim, a little bit of aileron trim, but you're best off flying it until you get it up to speed and comfortable. Okay, let's go and put it through its paces a bit, shall we? So let's go and open up the throttle. We're running at 1.3. I'm just watching the temperatures down here and the pressures. We're looking okay. So, watching this from outside, you get some interesting effects if you start to put some pressure on the airframe. So let's try this out then. I'm going to pull up quite steeply. Okay, I was expecting... No, there we go. I was expecting when we get the snap roll out of the top of there. Interesting. So we've got some contrails forming on the wingtips. And it's snap rolled. Okay. I don't want to get too far away from the airfield, otherwise I'll lose it. Okay, let's go to a fairly steep climb, laying some power down here. What I want to do, just to show you this, is we'll level out. See the airspeed is climbing. Look, we're nearly up to 450 kilometers an hour, edging towards 500. So what I'm going to do is lift this into a climb. Trade off some of the airspeed for altitude, so we're down to 300 kilometers an hour. And then we're going to do this. You can tumble this very easily, but if you let go, it sorts itself out. I come off the throttle there so we don't damage anything. So all I did then was gave it a lot of control input and it tumbled the aeroplane almost immediately. So you do need to be careful with this aeroplane. So if we do some high G turns in it, you'll see what I mean about it departing quickly. So we're going to pull in elevator more and more and more. It's got a fantastic turn radius, not quite as good as the Spitfire, and it tucks under, look, and it will spin if you don't get back in control of it. So if you try and go with it, you'll end up spinning uncontrollably. But it will flick roll out of tight turns quite spectacularly. So I've been watching a couple of videos of other people talking about it, so it's interesting for me to see it for myself now. I wonder how much damage I did to that wingtip, scraping it on the grass on takeoff. Just goes to show though, even with, you know, somebody with as many hours as me in the simulator, you give me a difficult aeroplane to fly and it takes practice. I'm not going to be able to do it straight away. So you saw my first go at taking this somewhat unsuccessfully. And I guess that's why they had the ME-108, wasn't it? The Typhoon, or Typhoon? Typhoon in English, Typhoon in German. Which was a trainer for this aeroplane, and it was just as difficult to handle. Okay, let's try and bring this in then for an approach. So bringing the speed down. So you can see the speed doesn't bleed off very quickly. going to stay fairly high and see if we can, to give myself visibility over the nose, because yeah, we can't poke our head out of the side like we can with Spitfire or a Hurricane. So we're going to come in fairly high. So watch the gear coming down. Flaps down. Let's have a look at those flaps just while we're gliding in. Quite a serious bit of kit, isn't it? It looks quite heavy and chunky. Bit down with quite a hefty amount of aileron. We used an awful lot of runway up as well, so like I say, this airplane will take a fair bit of practice. So you need a combination of both differential braking and rudder to steer. It's not easy to handle at all. So let's try that takeoff run again. So let's see if we can do this from outside. So I've got the ailerons all the way to the right as we accelerate. Comes the tail. Yeah, it's a box of frogs, it really is, but we successfully got off the ground, even in external view. So undercarriage up as soon as you can. And up we go again. There's hardly any wind today, so that's why I'm able to take off the same direction I came in. We had some power in hand then, actually. So we'll circle the airfield. Actually, if we go and have a look, I think I've got LittleNavMap running. Yeah, I have. So which way is the wind? 9 knots. So it's a crosswind. That's interesting. But it's not too bad. I don't think it's as bad on the ground than it is up here. It might explain why I had such problems on that first takeoff. Obviously practice makes perfect. Once you know what to expect, it makes it a lot easier. Let's try landing from the other direction then. Now it did sink quite spectacularly during that final approach, so I'm inclined to keep it high if I can, but then it makes the landing roll that much longer, which is always a bit of a problem. Gear down. And flaps. down. Just gently on the brakes. Yeah, we've wandered off the runway slightly, but not bad for our first attempt. Having to stamp on the wheel brakes on each side with the differential braking to get it to go anywhere like a straight line. It's a handful. Trying to edge this out so we can come in alongside the Cessnas at the flying school. Start where we or leave the or what's the word? Finish where we started. Oh, okay, I'm better at it now. He says. A few problems there. So you can see the flaps don't travel very quickly. I'm not sure if there's any difference there if you run the engine up at all. If it helps with the pressurization. Don't know. Very cool, isn't it? So I think this will start the engine. I thought it did. Obviously we can just pull the fuel as well. And the breakers around the place, which will... If I can click on them. Okay, maybe you can't. Oh, it's the red ones, is it, to release them? It's interesting, you could see each system switching off as I was going through the breakers. It's an interesting aeroplane, isn't it? Obviously it would take a lot of practice to fly it well, but it's modelled really nicely. I am super impressed with that. So yeah, like I said, it will take some practice. Oh, we managed to not wipe out the cones, which was interesting. And having put the parking brakes on, I'm guessing that put the chocks in place as well. They're interesting, aren't they? Should we go and have a closer look? Interesting. Anyway, hopefully you enjoyed that. So that's the Flying Iron Messerschmitt BF 109 in Flight Sim 2020. Quite a handful. But obviously that much more rewarding if you do manage to fly it well and fly it by the book numbers. Obviously I wasn't flying it by the book numbers. I was just trying it out and throwing it around the sky a bit today. But I imagine there'll be, techniques and patterns to fly to come in to bleed speed off and, to do anything like an accurate approach with it. Anyway, hopefully you enjoyed that, and I'll see you again soon. Take care.